Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Cup of Joe. This morning I have a special guest, our co-founder, Kevin Lawhorn, and we are going to ask him a question. So let's go ahead, welcome him in. How are you doing, Kevin?
Good. Good morning, everyone.
Morning. All right, your question is, how can organizations best prepare for winter shipping and delivery delays?
I think that's a great question. For this particular year, the best way to prepare is to, really be completely in sync with your staff, all hours of shifts and, really have a lock-in answer to that burn rate. The burn rate of supplies and PPE, and understanding that those, necessities like gloves, gowns, we really need to establish what the facilities are using. And the best, case scenario would be to have a 4 to 6 week supply. Granted, that was, traditionally, in years past, the 4 to 6 week supply was more than adequate. And that's 4 to 6 weeks in additional supply. But with, the restrictions and limited access to, majority of PPE and facility necessities during COVID, it has, challenged that a little bit to where the likelihood of having an adequate 4 to 6 week supply is limited. However, we do have ample enough time. The ideal time frame to order is around, around Thanksgiving. So we have ample enough time for facilities to kind of compile what those needs are, establish what extra supplies for that 4 to 6 weeks would be. We're happy to assist in any way that we can as a company to, if you're worried about, exhausting your budget even more, we are happy to accommodate in other ways that we can, with product samples and stuff that could, in theory, tie over.
Okay. So you mentioned starting around Thanksgiving time is when organizations should start preparing. When should they prepare through? Or like, what is roughly the end date of when we won't really have to worry about winter shipping delays specifically?
So road conditions are always kind of that, fickle thing. I mean, they can be, years past, it's been not an issue. Some years it's been, completely, like 3 to 5 weeks of delays. Or, sometimes it just says that it's, delivered and we know that it's not. So the biggest thing is, preparing for Thanksgiving to, realistically Valentine's Day. That's a good range to kind of prepare for multiple delays. And the big reason isn't so much necessarily like winter conditions. It's understanding, typical dropship models and, really the fact that existing couriers are, just pushed to the brim of exhaustion during the holiday season. And you throw in a pandemic where people are going to the store less and using those, couriers more and more than ever before, as do we. Yeah. It's just more of a respect of understanding that it might take a little bit more time. I think we all know an example of, kind of the traditional, time frame of next day. Yeah. It's about 2 to 3 days, even during this, the last 10 months, that's what it's been. You throw in some snowy roads, it could be 5 potentially.
Yeah, that's a great point. How does our method compare to the traditional method?
As far as embodying the dropship method, I think that's a great point. I mean, in analyzing the DME industry and the medical equipment supply industry like we've really understood the benefit of small parcel dropship. Okay. I mean, the kind of traditional model is to have a brick and mortar location where you would drive and go pick up your supplies, or that company would offer a local delivery service. Really, I mean, the deliveries only occur really once a month. So to embody the dropship model, which we have, where we can service multiple customers throughout multiple states or multiple locations, and simultaneously do a same-day delivery where we could coordinate delivery across multiple states or multiple locations on a same day, reoccurring. It's the logistics of shipping just make it a no-brainer. And we're actually seeing a lot of DME companies who traditionally have a brick and mortar model convert to a dropship method, given the benefits and enhancements of shipping logistics, in 2020.
True, true. So how would the dropship method specifically benefit, let's say, a group home organization?
Um, it's one of our favorite kind of logistics, things that I think we have successfully tackled. With that question of how it better serve a dropship method better serves them, we commonly see where group home organizations have a centralized, main office, and supplies are ordered to that main office.
Okay.
Well, what happens is that they then have to upon intake of those supplies ordered on behalf of the whole organization in multiple locations entirely, they then have to receive those supplies and then give them and disperse them back out equally or per the use of each location.
They have
and
to.
oh yeah
Okay.
oh yeah they have to do that, and it's common. It's not just specific to group homes, but I mean it's one that those resources aren't necessary if they're not needed. So what we do is we obviously customer service is our number one thing, and building those relationships with customers so we can learn, so we can collectively better both of our situations. And so if we have, for example, we have a few large customers who are group homes, and we ship supplies to each location. So for example, if they typically order 30 cases of gloves a month, we can, instead of sending one pallet of 30 cases, we can send 2 pallets to each location, so they don't have to use that extra legwork or time that's honestly just unnecessary.
Yeah.
The shipping cost, when you really break it down, it's about the same.
Yeah. And especially during the winter months when people are dealing with snowy roads, you don't want to have to distribute those out to each of your locations.
Well, exactly. And especially knowing that it can be, if the orders stay within 2 boxes, they get bound together and they go to the doorstep, versus, having a pallet come in. You got to, worry about a truck that's got has to have a lift gate to unload the pallet, bring it into your location. And, we've heard stories, I kid you not, where some suppliers have left a pallet worth of supplies in the middle of the snow in the parking lot of the assisted living facility, and they're just left to go get it. And it's one where, when you hear those stories, like that could be prevented in so many proactive ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it's truly fun to get to know so many facilities around the country where we can, understand, where, what problems they face, to know that we can mitigate that.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you, Kevin. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
No, obviously, the biggest encouragement is, be open, be vulnerable. We as your supplier just always want to know, as much as we can, so we can learn to benefit you the most. Effective communication is what's most important. And, when those, pain points are shared,
Mm-hmm.
Sky's the limit as far as proactivity goes. So feel free to reach out to myself, our customer service, your regional sales manager, and we're happy to, obviously work with you to understand what needs need to be met, and, really working through a proactive winter. We want to keep this thing squashed down as much as we can and make sure that our customers, have adequate supplies. We know that majority of them do. And if you're not our customer, and if there's, if you are getting timeframes, or you think it's, unrealistic to get, an additional 6-week supply on top of what you're already, might be experiencing delays on from your current supplier, feel free to reach out to another one. We're happy to help, and grateful for whatever connection we make.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
All right. Have a good day.